Hello, my name is Jeff and welcome to Treasurefacts. Today I'm going to show you how to build a display case. I plan to use this wood, which is 3 pieces of pine, 1 inch by 4 inch by 8 foot long, to get started. Okay, what we got is 1/2 inch, 2 3/8. I'm going to go ahead and cut these to length so that I can build my box with the correct size. Then we're going to go ahead and dado the ends of 2 of them so that we can go ahead and glue up the box. And then I'm going to go ahead and joint the wood for the top and the bottom. I'm going to cut 2 27.5s and 2 16 3/4. We're going to cut it on this chop saw, run it over to the table saw and cut dados on each of the 16 3/4. You're going to want to take a 1/4 inch dado out, so you raise the blade to a mark that I made. And there we go. And I went ahead and marked my dado in. We have the height marked, so all we got to do is run it through the blade a few times. That's how it's going to look. We're going to glue up the top and the bottom to this box. We went ahead and cut it. These are all 3/8 of an inch, as you see here. But what I want to do is space these out. We're going to lay these inside. Because what we intend to do is glue both up at the same time. These are bar clamps. You can adjust them, squeeze them together. But the first thing we need to do is make sure we get a straight line through so we can keep these from being out of square. We want to go ahead and just scribe a line straight down through. And there you have it. If they end up all like this and you glue it up, you're going to be out of square. So let's line all the pencil lines up. So let's go ahead and turn them on their edge. Okay, we got everything squared up. And I want to go ahead and use some type-on glue. Use the original, not the type 2. I hate that stuff. It's just run a good bead of glue right along the piece of wood. Okay, we got all the edges glued except for the 5th one. We want a dry edge so that when you butt the wood together it won't seal together. So we'll go ahead and put the first one down, line the pencil lines up. Next one goes down, line the pencil line up. Okay, now you put this one down. Okay, now the cool part. Just push all these together like this. You have a dry edge. You don't want to glue the top and the bottom together. So just go ahead and turn up your clamps, just like this. Line all your pencil lines up. And then what we're going to want to do is run the clamps in so they're snug. And it's going to start squeezing glue out. You don't want this thing just all of a sudden popping up. So you go through and you check, make sure everything is flush. Keep checking your pencil lines. And if you can see the beads of glue squeezing through, don't worry about that. You can always get a chisel, and then when it's dry, you'll be surprised how that pops right off. About a half hour's going by. We're going to go ahead and loosen it. And voila. I was talking about this glue that squeezed through. I'm going to go ahead and show you how that is. I won't show you the whole thing, but all you do is just take your chisel and all your glue is loose. You just fleck it off and it saves a lot of sanding. Okay, we're done with the panel. remember we glued 2 of these up. The next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to glue up the case to the box. And remember, we dadoed the ends. I did 2 of them. We're going to go ahead and set those in place right now. Alright, we're about ready to use some more glue. First, you put your ends down. We're going to want to get a bead of glue in here on each side. So let's go ahead and do that right away. I like to get both corners. This will be a strong box. The reason why you put a dado in there is so that the wood doesn't twist and it ends up being a good box. This takes a little skill. So we're going to go ahead and set this up by just tightening this up just like this. This gets a little scary. Okay, and then we're going to want to get the other one in there. Don't panic. Tighten it as you go. Make sure everything is fitting really good. You're adding a little bit of tension at a time here. And we got ourselves a good joint here, as well as here. And we're going to go ahead and grab this square. We're going to want to make sure that this is square. And just double check 2 corners at least. I'm going to go ahead and double check it by measuring with a tape measure. Cross corner, 32 5/8. 32 5/8. Now done with the casing. I'm going to go ahead and take it out of the clamps. And this is your casing. And then we went ahead and completed the top and the bottom of the box, which is right here. We're going to go ahead and take these to the shop. Okay, I went ahead and sanded everything, which is a good idea. After you glue up, you'll have a little bit of glue residue. I went ahead and took a chisel, knocked off the glue, and I told you we were going to come and cut these to the correct size on the table saw. We're about ready to do that. Okay, we made our first cut. Now what we want to do is cut it to length. So I'm going to go ahead and trim off the edge, take off a very minimal amount of square. Now we have a true square edge. And we're going to go ahead and turn this around and go up against the fence this time. And I measured it 28 inches in length to the blade. That was pretty close. The blade just barely made it through, but you don't want the blade too high. In case something goes wrong, you can cut your fingers on that blade. Casing. Again, use tight bond. We'll go around the top edge here. We'll go ahead and glue this panel on. We'll tack it in place and flip it over and do the same thing. So what you need to do is get some glue. You use your pants and your wife will yell at you at the end of the day. Go ahead and take the panel over top. You don't want to move it around too much or you'll show glue on the inside. Bring it over top. Set it in place. Right for you. It's flush on this side. Okay, let's go ahead and seat all these. In here. Do that. Now we're going to want to flip it over. And you have what looks like a drawer. We're going to want to nail the top, so let's go ahead and do that. part of the operation. I want to go ahead and cut this open, which is actually a hollow core, and then I'm going to use these shims, and they're very important. This is the thickness of the blade, and when we're running it through the blade here, I'm going to use shims so that we don't squeeze against the blade and make unnecessary cuts into the wood. Why I put this shim in here was if it wasn't here and I'd be squeezing on it, that blade would be cutting into the wood unnecessarily. So we put the shim in here to squeeze on it so that we don't squeeze on the blade. So let's go ahead and make the last cut, and I'll use 2 shims on each side. Shim on the back side. We'll go ahead and put the shim on the front side. Remember, we're trying to take up the place of the blade, so when I squeeze this, it's not going to squeeze on the blade. So let's make the final cut. Go ahead and seal it. Polyacrylic. It's a water-based seal. I'm going to use a soft bristle brush. We're going to put 3 coats on. The nice thing is you can actually see what you're doing because the wood has that wet look. The first piece is done, which is the first coat. This will dry and we'll come and sand it lightly. Take a piece of tack cloth. Give it a second and then a third coat. Okay, I got a first coat on both. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is take a fine piece of sandpaper and go over lightly over the surface of this finish. The reason why we're doing this is because the little fibers in the wood want to stand up when you seal it the first time. So the second time you sand it or the second time you seal it, it'll get rid of all those little burrs. Then what we want to use is a tack cloth. It's really sticky, but it doesn't hurt the wood in any way. You just rub it over to take the dust off. Okay, you're ready for the second coat. The second coat goes on much easier than the first. Alright, and there you have it, second coat. Third coat will really shine. I went ahead and sanded it like we did the first time. This will be the third coat. Use a tack cloth and clean it up. Okay, all we have left to do now is the inside of the box. So we're going to go ahead. I already sanded it. I used the tack cloth and got the dust out. Okay, we're finished with that. Now all I have to do is just this upper lip to seal that. And then we'll go ahead and put the second and third coat. I don't think I'll show you that since I showed you how to do the outside. Finally completed building the box. Then we have it sealed. We're ready to put the hardware on. We're going to need some hinges, latches, and the handle. The first thing you're going to want to do is find the placement of your hinges on the back. It means you're trying to figure out how far in from the end you want to go. I am going to choose 2 inches, which will be right around here. 2 inches will be right about there. So what we're going to do is take the lid down, and we're going to use the tabletop on a key square. You take the lid off, plant it firmly on the tabletop. Let's run a tape measure, lock it. We want to measure in 2 inches from each end. Just like that. You want to go ahead and flip your hinges and push them up against so that they're firm against the table. And the reason why I do that is so that we can get them straight. The next thing we're going to want to do is scribe the holes. Apply a little pressure. There we go. Let's move the hinges out of the way. And as you can see, there's 3 marks here on each end. This is where we get the awl. And we're going to go ahead and find the center of that hole. And we're going to push in and make indents. Remember what I said about the awl, it's just a pointy piece of steel. You find the center of this hole, pretty close, and just push it in. Same as all 3 of them on this side. Okay, there's a trick I want to teach you using a Sharpie and the drill. Let's go ahead and flip this box over. You're going to note that there's a 1/2 inch worth of wood here. Use your Sharpie, grab your drill, and then you hold your drill up against the wood here and you mark it just like this. That way when you go to drill into the wood you don't over drill, and you'll stop at the same spot every time so you don't push on through and drill holes. Alright, it's time to drill the holes. Right up to that mark. We're ready to install the hinges. Remember, we already pre-drilled the holes. We have a short screwdriver. You have better maneuverability with that. All you do is just turn it into the wood, just like this. Because it's pine, it's not going to go in too hard, but you had to drill out a pilot to get it started. These pilot holes really help get you started there. You didn't have that. There you go. It's square. And we're ready to go ahead and lift it up. We'll put it on top of the main part of the box. Bring it forward, pop this down. And we're ready to scribe those holes as soon as we get this line. Technically, we're ready to scribe this. And I'll bring the camera back when I'm finished. Okay, with the hinges installed, we're going to go ahead and open up our box. It's now a case. Now we're going to want to put on the latches. I'm going to go ahead and go 2 inches from each end, just like I did the hinges. This time we'll flip the whole box over. Hinges are attached this time. We'll take the top half of the latch. First, we got to measure it. So you run your tape across the front, and you measure it at 2 inches. Move it out to the edge. Bring your latch down and scribe it. As you can see, there's 3 holes here, 3 holes here. We're going to go ahead and use the awl and then drill the holes. Okay, there you have it. Now we'll just do the bottom latch. I'm going to go ahead and put those on. I won't videotape that. It's the same thing as putting the hinges on the back. Okay, we got the hinges installed and we have the latches in place. Tightens it with the handle on, which will be right here. We'll have a good case to display the top end. We're going to run the last screw to the handle in, and we're complete. So this is something I had anticipated for a couple weeks. I got all my hardware from Lowe's. It's tight. Okay, we're on the last step of building this case for the topography map. I have a piece of construction grade styrofoam that I intend to put into the box to bring it up. I got a 3/8 inch piece of plywood that I'm going to put in, and then I'm going to finish it off with a piece of colored cardboard. Then we're going to go ahead and mount the topography map inside the box. All I have to do is snap the end of the styrofoam off. I went ahead and scribed it with a knife. You just bring it up to the edge of the table. Hold it down with your elbow. It snaps right off. So now we got the piece cut, and we're going to go ahead and install it in the box. Okay, we are on the finishing stretch here, and we're going to go ahead and put this blue styrofoam in, and it's a filler. So we're going to go ahead and glue that in. Just run some glue in here. Okay, that's installed. Okay, the next step would be to put the plywood in. Go ahead and run some glue on this as well. The map down. I'm going to run screws through the map onto the plywood. Pick up this plywood. So we'll go ahead and put a piece of cardboard in here yet. Okay, finish it off. We're done with the box now. And I'll show you what's inside. This is ready for show. We have the three-dimensional topography with the original topography map. We spent time building the case. We also spent time building the topo map. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Watch for us next month and we'll see what else we can come up with. Let's go ahead.